Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to one of my most important series here on my YouTube chess channel. Today with this video we're starting the London system studies with the black pieces. So we are trying to battle it out. We're trying to find ourselves a good repertoire against this annoying, against this frustrating setup, because I think many of us are well prepared now these days with some books, with some engines, how to play against vertical openings, how to play some sidelines, so very important defenses and similar stuff. But I think many of us still have problems how to beat this annoying London system. And probably you have seen also some setups. Probably you have been recommended some ideas how to play against the London system. I've done the same. I've also searched for methods, but I was really never satisfied with these methods because the game became really too tactical for my taste. I had the same problem. If you have maybe time to listen, I have had the same problem also with my play against d4. I used many times the king's Indian defense and I had really beautiful success with it. I won even beautiful games. But then I realized in a higher level in chess, I realized that the King's Indian, it's simply too tactical for my taste. It has so many opportunities for white. It has so many tactical sequences that you have to even memorize by heart. So it was really, really tough for me to play, for instance, against d4 and now also against the London system. For instance, I've seen this particular method. After move bishop to f4, for instance, in this setup, the London system, I was recommended many times just to launch attack with the move c5 after e3, maybe to go with this move queen to b6, and now after knight to c3 we would reach now the poison pawn variation. And you see the name itself, it's saying the poison pawn is really wild, so it's really a tactical opening already. So I think, for instance, okay, it is playable, and many times maybe someone is recommending to you to play this line, but I would recommend you something else. And as I said, with this video we're starting really, I think, a good setup that it's very easy for you to learn, and I think you solve many of your positional problems in the London system by applying this method. So let's start from the beginning. Our opponent is playing now the move d4. My recommendation in move 1 is to play knight to f6, the Indian game. So here in the continuation, knight to f3 can be the move, and now we're playing a very, very flexible move e6. Why do we play e6, for instance, instead of the move d5? This move e6 gives us a certain flexibility to play then afterwards maybe an opening that you like to play if something goes wrong. For instance, your opponent doesn't have to play, of course, the London system. He can play c4, and now we are in other systems that are probably something that you have already seen, and now you can go, of course, maybe into the Queen's Gambit declined after knight to c3. Maybe you have prepared somewhere the Vienna variation with d takes c4, or you're good in maybe here the Ragozin defense, or maybe you're left to play the Semislav defense. You play maybe the Barman variation, so you have really certain flexibility. You can play maybe after something like, I don't know, maybe you can play d takes c4. You can play so many beautiful things out of this opening. For instance, you don't have to even play d5. You can play the Bogo in the defense. The Bogo is also a very nice opening. So that's why, as I said, with the move e6, we have a certain flexibility to play still maybe another method than afterwards, but we are developing immediately the dark square bishop. And it's a very important moment now, because after move bishop to f4 that our opponent is playing now, we can play bishop to e7, and we are covering now this diagonal. And basically white has now two choices. So white can play e3, normal development, or white can play the move h3. So in this video I wanted to show you just one game in which I really destroyed an international master against this London system. Then in the continuation of the series we'll see also different lines, so don't think that this is the end of it. This will not be really the end of our London system series with the black pieces. We'll see very important sidelines, very important ideas for both sides, how to also attack with white, how to control play these ideas with the black pieces. So it will be a very important series. So far, after move h3, if this is your opponent's move, I recommend you to go really into a tricky line with the move b5, because many times in the London system, from black's perspective, you are trying to play aggressively against this pawn on d4. We're playing, for instance, the move c5, but now our opponent could fix the structure with the move c3 or with the move e3, and now in order to make the move b5, in order to make further progress with b5, b4, you have to prepare this move with the move a6. Now I think you can do this kind of an idea much faster. So after move h3, you can play b5 immediately. There is a beautiful game played between Aronian versus Carlton. Please check it out. It's in the database. From this particular position, Magnus won the game with the black pieces, so you can really use also his game. We will cover the game for sure here on my YouTube chess channel, but so far, just a little bit theory. b5, I think, is a beautiful method. Now we can play c5 immediately, knight to c6, and we are already there. We can play b4, then afterwards, maybe then afterwards a6. But the most important thing, we have already attacked the queen side, and many times the queen side attack in the London system from black's perspective is our main strategic goal. But I wanted to show you now a different line. So our opponent is played now, my opponent played here the move e3. He didn't allow me now to play the b5 method, but now comes the beautiful part of this opening line. We're playing the move knight to h5. We are trapping already the bishop. That's the beauty about it, because the bishop doesn't have good squares. If the bishop comes on e5, we go d6, and now the bishop has to retreat, and now we can hit the center with the move c5, maybe c6, d5, and then afterwards c5. But we have to notice white is losing the bishop pair for sure, and that's, I think, very important for us. I think in the beginning of the game, okay, maybe this is nothing spectacular, but I think we have already gained equality. For instance, in this particular position, white has lost already the advantage here when it comes to computer evaluations. Black should be even slightly better. So here, after move knight to h5, my opponent played the most common move, bishop to g3. Now what he's waiting for is, of course, this particular line, knight takes g3, h takes g3, and he's opening out the h file, and he could maybe attack now the position with bishop to d3, c3, queen to c2, and he could have really a powerful game. But my recommendation after move bishop to g3 is not to take out the bishop immediately. We are waiting. When the knight moves, maybe here to d2, when the knight moves to e5, when there is a discovered attack against the knight, then go knight takes g3. You don't have to lose an extra tempo. You wait, because if your opponent plays now the move h3, we can hit the bishop now in a different way. Then after f takes g3, his pawn structure would be messed up. So now you see, we can always take out the bishop. Don't rush. Stay calm. Don't rush into the attack, because we are waiting the knight from f3 to move. When that happens, then just then hit the bishop on g3. So now I played here c5. C5 creates, of course, immediately the tension in the center of the board, and my opponent fixed the central like he always does in the London system, and I played now knight to c6, normal develop. So you see, this knight to c6 move is also controlling now the e5 square. If our opponent wants to somehow get this bishop on e5, then it will be again taken by this other knight, and again he lost the bishop here. Again, I'm pointing out, this is nothing spectacular. I'm not saying you will win immediately some games because you apply the system. I'm just saying this is really good healthy chess. This is really a good setup for you. I guarantee you have in the later stage of maybe of your career. If you're a beginner, of course, you have to improve maybe some other things, but I guarantee you in the later stage of your career, you will have really success with this setup. If you're maybe above 2000, you can really have a good preparation against the London system. So now knight from b to d2, and you see now my opponent is preparing e4. E4 would be very nasty for me to handle, because then he could connect this pawn structure in the center of the board. He could create some spaces, so that's why I prevented this idea with the move d5. Now your opponent could go bishop to d3 or bishop to e2. My opponent went bishop to e2, again with the idea maybe to somehow attack the knight. But notice, again, I'm pointing out, we are waiting this knight to move. When the knight moves on e5, then we'll hit the bishop, not before. So very important. So now after bishop to d7, we have now knight to e5. Now the time is coming, but we are hitting now finally the bishop. Now the knight was attacked. My opponent tried here knight to c6. He tried, of course, to create again attack against the queen. If you play, for instance, here h takes g3, my continuation would have been, of course, knight takes e5. And look at this, after d takes e5, now comes a very important move that you have to play. It's sort of a Zwischenzug, queen to c7, hitting the pawn on e5 and forcing structural weaknesses on dark squares. And notice our opponent has lost the dark square bishop. Now we're dominating on the dark square, so now I think it's very easy to play. After move f4, we can even queenside castle here. Okay, your opponent could try bishop to d3, attacking this pawn on h7. We will cover also this bishop to d3 lines. They're a little bit different. I just wanted to show this game, so as I said, maybe you can use this game as your cornerstone and then build it up with some different opportunities, of course, for both sides, because you'll not probably play every time the same opening line, but I think this is the way to go. So after move knight to g3, my opponent tried knight to c6, so intermediate attack against the queen. He took the piece. Very important now to pick up the knight with the pawn, because you don't want to play, of course, bishop to c6. We are trying to open the position. When you have the bishop here, you are trying to open the position. You cannot tolerate a closed position. So that's why, okay, so far my bishop is blocked out and we have a double pawn structure, but we can agree this will not stay there forever. We can pick up the pawn on d4 once, and then we can play c5 again, sort of a reloading idea, and then still battle against the d4 pawn. So we are opening the position. That's, I think, the beautiful part about this method. So after move b takes c6 and h takes g3, we take here, or queen to b6. We can also play c takes d4. I play queen to b6, and now if maybe my opponent would have played here the move queen to b3, I would probably take immediately. C takes d4, and after queen to b6, a takes b6. Maybe he can also pick up now the pawn, but now again with the move c5, we're hitting the center, we're opening the position, and from this point on, I think it's a one-way ticket here. Black should be much better. For instance, the computer evaluation is here +1 in black's favor, so I think this is pretty fine if you're playing with the black pieces. So again, I'm not saying this is winning for sure, but this is a perfect position. I think in top grandmaster level, every player with the black pieces would win this game. So as I said, with the move queen to b6, my opponent here played queen to c2, and I played now h6, preventing some rook takes h7 ideas. And I have also a great control here around the square g5. Notice one particular thing that I will do now. I will stay with my king in the center now for a while, because my opponent could try maybe some methods of g4, maybe g5, f4, g5. He would try maybe to open the h file, but I stayed a little bit longer with the king in the center because I didn't want to expose myself. The king is so far not endangered. My opponent after move h6 tried now queenside castling, and now I am opening the position. Very important move now. C takes d4, after e takes d4 and c5 again, knight to f3, and now rook to b8. We are creating now really some tactical madness now on the b file. And look at this, both of these bishops are targeting towards the queen side. We have a rook battery. Of course, this is not winning again immediately, but this is now perfect setup. We have so many minor pieces. We have so many artillery here against the white king, so this is now really good game. So in the continuation, my opponent tried king to b1 and now played very important move c4. So here I'm pointing out this is an international master. I'm not international master, so I was very happy when I won this game with the move c4. I have sort of a King's Indian structure, but on the other side of the board. You probably know when you have the King's Indian structure, then you have created already some spaces here on the king side. You have really a dirty attack on that side of the board. Now we have a similar idea, but just on the other side of the board. And look at this. I have locked now the bishop out. I have still the b file attack. This bishop is coming into the game to the square a4. And the only thing that I need to do is to include my other rook into the game. But a very important thing that I did here, I didn't want to expose myself immediately. I didn't want to castle immediately because I wanted my opponent maybe to first play sort of an attack here on the e file, maybe to play f4, f5. Maybe he will try to attack my center, and when he does it, then I will castle out of the attack. So now when he has the opportunity to attack my king side here, I stayed with the king a little bit too longer in the center, because he doesn't have the opportunity maybe to push some e pawns or something in order to somehow to open the e file. That's now also a very important thing to notice here. So my opponent got out of the attack. I played queen to a5 with the preparation to play bishop to a4. My opponent tried rook to b1, bishop to a4. Of course, b3 is not working. You get even here destroyed by these activities. Now we can play even queen to a3 checkmate. This is not possible. So my opponent tried queen to c1. So here I played bishop to b3. It's of course protectable with the move a3, but at least I provoked a new weakness in my opponent's position. The pawn is now endangered here. Now we can maybe in some occasions, if the queen moves somewhere, then we can even sacrifice, of course, with bishop to a3 followed with queen to a3, and probably white is going to get checkmated. So with this tiny little maneuver to b3, I forced my opponent to be stuck with this queen here on c1 in order to just keep the king protected. So in the continuation, rook to b6 with the idea of rook to a6 and maybe again hit the pawn on a3. My opponent tried now knight to d2 and now played bishop to a4. Although I could have probably castled here also, it's probably also a good continuation for me. But I tried bishop to a4, and then after bishop to d1 I tried bishop to d7. I didn't want to trade off more pieces. I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't see immediately some tactical possibilities, but I really didn't want to trade off more pieces. I'm saying here I have the advantage. If I trade off too many pieces, this is simply too simplified, then I would go into his favor. So I didn't want to trade it off, although the engine suggests something else, but still I have a huge advantage here. Here still the evaluation is plus 2.5 in black's favor. So although I had maybe tiny little better moves, but I didn't care. Bishop to d7 is still a good continuation here for me. So bishop to c2, now I played rook to a6, king to a2. Now finally kingside castling, and you see now my opponent didn't even attack my kingside in any way, so he didn't basically know where I would have gone. I could have even gone, I think, maybe here somehow to c7 with the king and maybe include the rook also into the game. So probably he wasn't sure where I will go, so that's why I removed kingside castling. Now he tried to attack my kingside with the move f4, maybe with the move f5, but now it doesn't matter. I just continued the pressure with rook to b8, and now I have this beautiful attacking formation. Look at this, everything is aiming towards my opponent's king, and this is game over. This is simply sick attack. So after move g4, I of course sacrifice the rook here. Rook takes b2. You have to pick up now with the queen to b2. If you play of course king to b2, then you get checkmated here with the queen to a3. So this would be game over. In the continuation, queen to b2 was played, but now after queen takes queen to b2, pardon me, we have here bishop to a3. The bishop is attacked, and this is really cool stuff, because if you play now queen to b1, I would queen to b8, pardon me, I would cover myself with the move bishop to f8 and create a discover check, and again the game would be over. In the continuation, rook to a1, I now picked up the queen on b2. Now I play the check. You have to even cover here with the knight. I pick up the knight, and after a couple of moves, basically the game is over. So this is a method. I think it is easy to learn. It is playable. As I said, I'm not saying that someone made a mistake by recommending you really some different ideas. If you're a tactical player, maybe you can go into some wild tactical sequences against the London system. My recommendation is this. As I said, so far the d4, knight to f6, knight to f3, e6, keeping the game flexible. I think the d5 move is not so flexible like the e6 move, because the e6 move is playing in sort of a Nimzo Indian style, where we are developing immediately our dark square bishop, because we don't have to even battle for the d5 square immediately. Our knight is controlling here the e4 square that we basically are trying to cover. Now with the move e6, we're keeping the flexibility. As we said, after move bishop to f4, we are playing bishop to e7, and now we're waiting. If h3 happens, we push the pawn on b5. If e3 happens, then I guarantee you a good game here with the move knight to h5. So okay, this is the method. I hope you will apply it. I hope I helped you out a little bit, maybe against the London system. I'm saying this is nothing spectacular, but chess usually is not spectacular. Chess is usually all about preparation. It's all about the tiny little things that you can use maybe in order to surprise your opponent. So you see, this system worked for me against an international master, and I hope it will work for you. In my opinion, it's really the best method. I would not lie to you. I would not recommend you some trash here. So in my opinion, really one of the best systems to beat this annoying London system. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the study. So as I said, this is now just our first video. I'll create a separate playlist where we'll also analyze different lines, different opportunities, because this is not the end of it. This is just the warm-up. You see also some different opportunities for both sides. So see you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.